Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Adam.
And I understand that I should really be saying welcome back because you attended the Fortune Global Forum in 1999 in Shanghai.
Was a very memorable conference, most notably because in the back of the room, AOL and Time Warner agreed to merge. So for those of us who were there, you'll never forget being there. But that's not happening here, and
not yet. Not as far as we know.
Exactly.
Well, we have a lot of ground to cover. Comcast is such an unusual company because the core part of the business is a very domestic business, and yet this little business that you bought is a very global business and an important U.S. business. So we have global and domestic to discuss, and I think compared with past years, you have a bit of air beneath your wings in the U.S. cable business, which isn't, I suspect, an expression that many people expected to hear. So talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Well, we just last week had the third quarter, and interestingly, with people saying the video business is dead, it actually, we had the best video third quarter in 9 years. And we did lose a few customers, so it's not like we're completely satisfied. But when you look at all of 2015, where you take the last 12 months, go back a little bit to the end of 14, and or pick analyst projections for this year, we start with about 22 million subs. Within 100,000 or so, we'll end with 22 million subs. So there's lots of competition, satellite, telco, other forms of competition, cord cutting, economy. But when you put it all together, if you have great products, you invest in those products, you market them well, you give great service, those are the things we're trying to do. We had a really good quarter, and we've had a good start to the year.
One of the major themes of the discussion that Ram Charan held earlier was the challenge that CEOs face of having to deal with an existing business that is an important business, a big business, but not a growing business, and think about simultaneously the rest of the business. This is your portfolio exactly, right?
Well, I think another way to call that for any company that's of a certain size, burden of incumbency. Mm-hmm. You're lucky to be where you are, but you have to worry about all the what ifs, and at the same time you're trying to grow. And so Comcast is 51 years old. We've basically grown every quarter for 51 years. The foundational principle is to try to grow.
When you say grow, you mean revenue and profits?
Revenue and cash flow, EBITDA. And we've, you take broadband, which is an exciting product for our cable company. We had the best third quarter in 6 years. And you could say, well, you're still selling connectivity. What changed in 6 years? Well, we've sped it up. We've increased speed 17 times in a dozen years. We've Wi-Fi, routers. We have in your home more hotspots than any company in America. What you can do with that broadband keeps getting better as innovation occurs from other companies outside of our world, and we want to make your experiences fantastic. So the cable business, a very healthy business. We're in businesses taking those same products to small, medium, now enterprise companies, giving them fiber connectivity. And then, oh, by the way, there's NBC Universal, which has been an incredible success story for us the last 4.5 years.
The meme just a short time ago, really until this quarter, was that the cord cutting, which you mentioned earlier, which is people saying, I don't need a cable connection at all, because I'll do fine with the internet, thank you very much. This was the end of the U.S. cable business. And so now the meme is, well, is it a pause in cord cutting, or are things getting better? So I'll start by saying, why now? Why did you only lose, as you put it, a few cable customers this most recent quarter?
We've been getting better for about 5 years, not every single quarter, but we, look, there is a change happening generationally. There's no doubt about it, and you'd be foolish to not embrace it, understand it, and do your best to participate. So whether it's NBC investing in BuzzFeed and Vox, or whether it's our Fandango app, or whether it's on-demand content and our X1 voice remote, self-service, track your tech. We have a number of initiatives to say we need to be a better company, we need to change, and we're doing that, and we're doing it successfully. So, I think we have time to see the market change and to understand the millennials and try to find products. So we have an Xfinity on campus products. So you go to MIT, and every student that has connectivity from the school, and then you can get our video without a cable box, right on your laptop, on your phone. We now have close to 20 plus campuses with the same product. That didn't exist 2-3 years ago. We have a Internet Plus. You just get our broadband, we'll give you the broadcasters and HBO. And we have a new product coming out called Stream. So every quarter, we try to have a new product. We've changed our company. You mentioned being a technology and media company. We have 1,500 software engineers. We're building on the East Coast a innovation technology center that will rival, hopefully, some of the companies here. And we have presence here with the R&D labs out here in Silicon Valley. You've got to change your company, but you take the resources and the customer relationships we're lucky enough to have and try to extend them to new products.
Now, you mentioned a bunch of topics I want to come back to. You have about 5 items on my list. One of them that has also been a theme here is how the CEO decides how to spend their time. And I'd like to, you have Steve Burke, who runs NBC Universal, who worked for Comcast for many years. So I assume his job is to handle that. But can you explain how do you zero in? How do you spend your time?
Well, I think it's a great question. There's no one-size-fits-all answer for leadership, management style, being a CEO. In our case, we have 2 CEOs in our company in addition to myself. Steve Burke, as you mentioned, been with us 17 years. He ran Comcast Cable. He was chief operating officer of the company. We bought NBC Universal. He had worked for Disney for a dozen years, out of Harvard, MBA, fantastic executive. And he wants to run his own business. And so he said, I'd like to move to New York, move my family. We're 30 Rockefeller Center, where we're headquartered. Have a presence in Los Angeles, where we have all our creative team and Universal Pictures and NBC Entertainment are headquartered, and others. And Neil Smith, we recruited, who was CEO of Public Company Charter, to run and take Steve backfill in the cable business. And both of those gentlemen are accountable and run the company. I go where they ask me to go.
I was going to say, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable for you. Like
you got the wrong guy on stage, but I like to think of our strategy. I really believe in looking around the corner if I can and think about where the company's going. And ultimately, I tell employees I have one job. So my dad started Comcast 50 plus years ago. It's been a very special company. If you invested $1 in Comcast, you've outperformed the S&P over 10 times over all those years. You'd have millions of dollars if you put $7,000 to work. It was an 18% CAGR for 30 years, 30 plus years.
Your dad knew what he was doing.
Well, was a great partnership and absolutely knew what he was doing. But the culture, people wanting to work for Comcast, and hopefully now Comcast NBC Universal, is the one thing I've got to get right. If I can make it a place where the best people want to come and have their career, I think the business problems and the opportunities, we'll figure it out as a management team. But we just recruited Mike Cavanaugh to be chief financial officer. He worked with Jamie Dimon for 20 plus years, building JP Morgan worldwide. He was president of Carlyle. He's now our CFO. Fantastic executive. And many, many, many others. I don't want to start.
So excuse me, I have a sense of what you do for someone like him and what you do for people like Neil and Steve. How do you think about the tens of thousands of people in the middle of the organization? How do you conceptualize making Comcast an attractive place to work, other than paying them a good salary?
Every person who's promoted or is new to the company in a management role at some point comes to Philadelphia, and we sit and we have unscripted 3 days, meet all the leaders, talk about the history, take Q&A. Any discussion goes. We call it, we invest a lot of time in culture, in training, in talking. Neil and his team do all the budgets in the field, not in Philadelphia, visiting all of our cable operations. It's personal relationships, and at the same time trying to be present. So I travel a fair amount now. It's changed with NBC Universal. I go to New York, go to Los Angeles. We have Universal theme parks in Orlando. We should talk about that for a second. A fantastic business right now. We just bought a theme park in Osaka. I was there a couple weeks ago. We're going to build in Beijing, Universal. We're very fortunate to have growth properties inside this wonderful company that you've got to build the team and get out and try and get it done.
Let's slay a couple of dragons quickly. You had a good quarter. You had a rougher year. You tried to do a major deal. It didn't work out. One, reflections on that. Two, do you need to do something else?
No, I don't feel we needed to do that or do something else. But when a company was under a hostile takeover, came and said, would you merge? There was tremendous synergies. 99% of our shareholders voted in favor of it. It was a very right down the middle opportunity.
And this is Time Warner Cable if there's 2 or 3 people who don't know what we're talking about.
But I think we've moved on. We've learned some lessons, and at the same time, I think we're a better company as a result. We've taken all that energy that was set to go. We'd spent 15 months waiting for the resolution, so it was disappointing. But when we finally said we're not going to do this, all the energy went, how can we improve our service? How can we innovate faster? And I think the kind of results you just saw in the quarter before, and what I hope you'll see in the future, is a company that's energized, focused, executing well, and hopefully hasn't missed a beat.
You mentioned customer service. This became a hot potato in the merger fight that your opponents, I was going to say enemies, this is business, right? Your opponents use this against you. What is the state of Comcast's customer service?
Well, I think we've been making steady improvements. Our customer experience, if you'd even broaden that question, so you've got to show up on time, products have to be reliable, and when you actually interact with them, they have to be fun and great. I didn't bring a demo with me, but people here in San Francisco can get something called X1. We're putting 40,000 X1s into people's living rooms every day. X1 is connected to the cloud. You have now a voice remote that we started last quarter with 0. We have over 1.5 million today. We'll have over 6 million or 6 million by the end of the year, 15 million next year. So it'll be the primary remote control. This will be the primary box. We're up to 25% of our customers with this experience, and it's game-changing.
Does this compete with or work with Apple TV and its new user interface?
I think we, frankly, been there for a while with some of the features they just unveiled. They always do wonderful work. Customers can have both, can have just one or just the other. But when you say, watch CNN, boom, you don't have to know channel numbers anymore. You say, find movies with George Clooney. 1 second later, there's 25 different choices. You can click it, find more like this, record Homeland. It's the easiest, intuitive, wonderful experience. We're seeing people use TV more, record shows more. They can take it with them on their mobile device. The experience is the same. Take the DVR is now in the cloud. I won't go on, but I think it's that kind of innovation coupled with, you have an app. If you want to do all your work with our company, we're not there yet. We're getting there, a lot closer. You can, if you want to pick up the phone, you can. If you want to just go mobile, you can. But when's the tech going to be at my house? We've now said if you don't show up on time, you get an automatic credit based on the GPS in the truck and the clock, not on any other subjective analysis. And the whole company is focused on every month, every week, improving the experience at all levels. I think we've made tremendous progress.
Well, what grade do you give yourself on an A through F scale? Customer service?
I think we've had some anecdotes that would be an F, and we've had many, many experiences that have been an A. And one of the problems that we do 300 million phone calls a year. So
300 million, you said?
Yes. So when you start picking 1, 2, 100, you're not being statistically fair. I would say we're improving dramatically. I think we could always be better. By the way, it's a very interesting time when you look at service in the world. Uber changed everyone's expectation of how easy it is to take the tools with mobile and experience something better than anybody had done before. Amazon has done a beautiful job. Many companies keep reinventing what's acceptable. So we may have had a A at one point that's a C today that becomes a B tomorrow that goes backwards and forwards. It's not a static question. To me, is does your organization feel this is fundamental to their core? And right now, Neil has set a wonderful standard by saying we're going to make customer service our best product. We've taken television and we have the best user interface in the world. We're pretty comfortable making that statement right now. And I believe we can hopefully do the same with our service experience over the next several years.
Bold statement. We have a question from the floor. Please identify yourself.
Hi, I'm Sheeta Bina from Insigniam. I happen to be located in Philadelphia.
Welcome.
Brian, you spoke about transforming the customer experience, and you certainly laid out some very exciting technical interfaces for the customer. And yet, transforming those 300 million phone calls and the people on the other end of those calls providing the service seems to be more complex even than that technology. So what would you say are some of the critical factors you're going to focus on to transform the human interface in your customer service?
So we're doing, great question. We're training every single person. We're listening to both customers. We have a new head of customer experience, a guy named Charlie Heron. He isn't new. He was the head of X1, and he helped us innovate the guide and the voice remote, and even for accessibility, a talking guide where if you're visually impaired, the guide will walk you through every step. Nobody had done any of those things. We said we need that same innovation for our people, the tools they work with, the training they get, and the interactions. The amount of time we're on the phone in the last 90 days is higher than it was at any time. We think that's a good thing. Get first call resolution, show up on time, and try not to have repeat. One of our issues that we focused heavily on is people who've called us multiple times in the last month. If you've called several times, you should go somewhere else inside our system to say, no more, you shouldn't have to call again, let's get it resolved right now. And have the systems create the help to our people to know that we need something special done for this customer right now, not wait in line and have to wait in line again and again. So there's many, many initiatives underway. It starts with talking to our employees, what do you need as tools to do your job better?
Brian, is this more expensive?
Yes, in fact, but we think the payback, and that's a question Wall Street has asked, is how much you invest. We spent hundreds of millions of dollars just in a short period of time, but then we had the lowest churn in any
Imagine
time.
that.
And we had the best video quarter in 9 years and the best broadband quarter in 6 years. So the whole organization, I think, is excited, and I think we're going to continue to hopefully show good results.
Over here, please.
Hi, I'm P.V. Kannan, CEO of 24/7. I have a question. In the history of merger and acquisition, we have never seen a smaller player buy a larger player and then become, a market leader, or at least in the top 2, 3. Charter is attempting that. What are your views on that, and what's the, probability of success?
Well, I'm going to be a coward and duck that. I don't like to talk about other companies, but I will tell you, I have tremendous respect for Tom Rutledge. I think he's been an excellent operator for many years in the industry, and I think I wish him well. We're different geographies, but I will say we did it, and Steve Burke did it for us. Comcast bought AT&T Broadband in 2003, I think it was. They were twice our size. They had Chicago, San Francisco, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle. We were in Philly and Washington, and we took a company with 16% operating margins and got it to 40% operating margins in 18 months. We have grown the company every year since. It transformed Comcast, and I think we did it recently. Let me just take a minute, use that to talk about NBC Universal, if I might. We bought a company from GE, a world-class, obviously, company that had owned NBC Universal for a long time. And I'm pleased to say 4.5 years later, we're on pace to basically have doubled the EBITDA for a 100-year-old company in Universal and a 75-year-old company in NBC, 25-year-old theme parks, and we're growing at the fastest rate maybe they've ever grown at. We now have NBC in first place from last place. Universal Pictures had $3 billion movies. That's the first movie studio to do that in 1 year in history. We'll have probably the most profitable year of a studio. Great team there, and that can't always repeat itself, but just shows real luck and momentum and good decisions. Theme parks, I mentioned briefly earlier. We have a business that today may be one of the, with Harry Potter and now Transformers and other attractions, growing all over the world. And then there's the cable channels, and we have a wonderful suite of cable networks that have business challenges with ratings and other things happening in the marketplace, but I would not want to trade positions with USA and Sci-Fi and Bravo and MSNBC and NBC Sports Network. So it's a great company that we've been able to grow very quickly since we bought it.
I just want to say that was a very effective pivot from a question about a competitor. Question right there, please.
No, I wanted to hear, I'm Dawn Hudson from the Academy of Motion Pictures, and wanted to hear more about your evaluation of the incredible turnaround I feel that Universal Pictures has had. We're all thrilled.
Well, we're thrilled too, thank you. I give, start with the team, right? We have a very broad team, but Ron Meyer's been at Universal for many years. He's tells it like it is, but the day-to-day management is run by Donna Langley and Jeff Shell and many other people who work for them. And the breadth of the movies, it's not one genre, as you know. It's been across the board. We're very excited with the very big commercial movies. We at the same time, we've got a movie from Tom Hooper coming out, Danish Girl, that I think people will be talking about in terms of what it means.
But what changed?
What changed? Well, we changed some people. Steve Burke came in one day and said, I was there, we had a meeting, we said, look, we ought to have a theory. Doesn't mean you know every movie you want to make, but we're going to do two things. We're going to try to have some approach. Let's have different types of movies. Let's agree it's sort of like a portfolio. It doesn't mean you'll always do it that way, but have a vision of what that portfolio should look like. We talked a lot about that. But the number one thing I think we said we could do, and we said we think we could try to create what we call symphony with having a culture, back to the very early conversation, where everybody works together. So when the Minions launched this summer, if you were watching the Golf Channel, the Minions would pop up as a little just teaser as the movie was about to come out. On NBC, the same would happen. If you turned on your cable at Comcast, it would, when Jurassic World opened, just before that, we had every Jurassic movie featured that you could go back and get caught up. 5 of our cable networks aired those movies in a roadblock to create excitement. So we say to the Steven Spielbergs or the creative team, come to this company because we can market you the same way we will the Olympics, the same way we do Sunday Night Football. It'll be very deep, everybody pulling in the same direction. And I'm not sure that's how every media company has always worked. In fact, I don't think it has.
Clearly, somebody in Hollywood is listening to this and saying they're corporatizing, Universal Studios. Would I be correct in assuming that you and Steve Burke don't lose a lot of sleep over that allegation?
I don't think we're corporatizing at all. In fact, I think we're saying I've gotten the most extraordinary emails from very different types of creative, from ends of the spectrum, saying, I've never had as good experiences working with your team. They get the message out. Remember, a movie is a brand new event, and no one's heard of it if it's not a sequel. And how do you market it? And that's the key in such a very crowded world and so many different ways to get the message out. Getting that right, doing it for a new TV show, doing it for a producer, that's what we think we can make it the opposite of corporate, and a home where we care about your content and want to give you creative freedom. And at the same time, when you have your baby ready to tell the world, no one's going to get the message out better than Comcast, NBC Universal.
Brian, congratulations on your success and for your resiliency, and thank you for coming back to Fortune Global Forum.
Thank you.
Okay.